Hi, Assalamualaikum, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, lah, whenever you are watching this. Welcome back to ESC3018 Waste Management. And today we are going to talk a little bit on the impacts and issues of waste management. Okay, but don't worry, today's lecture is going to be very, very short. Yeah, because there will be something that you guys will need to do at the end of the lecture, right? So we start off with the usual, yeah, the learning outcomes. So what exactly are you guys expected to know once you finish this topic? Yeah? First things first is you need to understand the waste impact towards the environment. So you've learned before this a number of the topics. Yeah, you've learned to look at different sectors. We have things like hazardous waste, solid waste, clinical waste, agricultural waste, industrial waste. So there's a lot of different classifications of waste. Okay, and depending on the nature of the activity that eventually generates the waste, the impacts will also be different. Okay, we can have a look at the first and second learning outcomes. Okay, basically the same, only the impacts are different. One, we look at the environment. Secondly, we look at the public health. Okay, so these are two separate things. Yeah, and if I don't know if you guys know, yeah, there's also we have environment, okay, but we also have things like safety and health. And usually in the industry, maybe you've heard about OSHA, okay, or maybe you've heard about SHE. Okay, so OSHA is usually for, you know, if you're working in factories, especially in terms of safety, okay, occupational safety and health. Yeah, so these are very, very popular jobs where a lot of companies are looking for specialists in this area. Also SHE, safety, health and environment. Okay, this is also another very popular post, very popular career options for, especially for you guys, yeah, Department of Environment, where you have the Bachelor of Environmental Science and Technology. Okay, you guys can also go into that, SHE, OSHA. Of course, this is putting it lightly, and there's also some other requirements that you have to fulfill before, especially if you want to go into OSHA. Safety, the safety bit is perhaps something that you have to take a certificate for it. But anyway, this is very, very relevant, not only in the future when you're working, but also from now on. You know exactly what are the impacts of these different types of waste towards everything around you, towards the environment, and also towards the health. Once you know this, you will be able to generate, motivations, trying to change the current practices wherever you are. If you are environmental officer, or you are SHE officer, for example, or you are now in the agency, or later lah, you are in the agency, you are in the government, you are in the position where you can make policy changes. Okay, that will direct the direction of the country, basically. We always look at this from top down. Things from the management goes down to the working level, okay, where the actual changes happen. It's the people up there that make the decisions. Okay, so lastly is to discuss the challenges and limitations of waste management in Malaysia and the world. Okay, because we know that although waste generation keeps on increasing, because remember, population is increasing. Now we keep on consuming things and we keep on producing waste. It's unavoidable. Okay, and despite that, the waste management sometimes are still lacking. Okay, and there are challenges why this is happening. Maybe there are some limitations in very specific areas which eventually lead to the waste management not being done properly. Okay, and you know that when this is happening, the impacts will come down to the environment and also the public. It's not only, we can't only just look at the specific organization. So you have to look at the overall impact. Okay, so these three are the learning outcomes for this topic. Okay. And what do you see? Yeah, if you have a look here, the first 1 quarter of the picture, the top quarter of the picture, and it's very nice. Blue skies and seems like it's very sunny. And then you look down, oh my gosh, what is that? Okay, so this is an example of a landfill. Okay, if we talk about waste management, if you still remember the triangle, this triangle is like, I don't know, in the first half of the semester, how it was. But for me, I guess in all lectures, I keep on going back to this triangle. So what are the best option for waste management? Okay, and here, if you look here, this is disposal. Disposal is like at the very bottom, right, of the triangle. It's because it's fairly simple to do. Right? You just send the waste to the landfills, and there you wait for it to be decomposed, and then in terms of plastic, you know how many million years that will take. So essentially what is happening is just put it in one location, and then it starts to decompose, and then you are treating it in that way. You let nature play its course lah. Okay, that's why it's at the very bottom, because you are not doing anything to it. Okay, and with the increasing intensity of waste year by year, this is not sustainable. Okay, what's going to happen? If you still remember when in the first lecture with me, the agriculture waste, we talk about land. We talk about how much land is actually available for the people to do agriculture. And when we talk about agriculture, it leads to food. We need to feed the people. Food is like the essential needs of a human being. Okay, so you need to feed people, and you require a certain area of land to do that. Why would you reduce that land to increase the area to dispose of waste? Why would you do that? That is why disposal is at the very bottom. Now, there's so many other different ways you could do that. If you still remember 3R, reduce, recycle, and reuse. Okay. Sorry about that. The first option is to reduce. We try to reduce the number of waste as much as we can, because that will lead to a smaller number of waste to be treated. Okay, that's why it's the first option, okay, for waste. have a look at the next slide. So this is taken from one of the textbooks in Pearson Education, and talk about the waste stream disposal. Okay, so you have bear in mind, waste is unavoidable. Okay, no matter how efficient a process is, there's no way you can eliminate waste completely. There's no way, zero. But some of you might ask me, okay, how about zero waste philosophy? Okay, so that is a little bit different. Zero waste philosophy, we are talking about eventually all the waste is being either reused or recycled. So it's essentially it's going back to another production cycle. Okay, so if you have something like a very simple one, any types of process, you have the input. Okay, so inputs here can mean the material, mean water, energy. Okay, and this is the process, and this is the output. Okay, so inputs here, let's say the material. Okay. Okay, material is processed to produce the products and the waste. Okay, so in zero waste philosophy, it's not that the waste is zero. Okay, it's actually being used back as an input for another process. So essentially, you will get the product, but you will get zero waste, yeah, because this is being recycled back into something else. Okay, that is the zero waste philosophy. But does waste, if you just look at here, it's waste zero. It's not, right? Even though we are talking about zero waste philosophy. Thus, you have to be very clear on that, right? So going back to this, let me clear that first. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, done. Okay, so if you look back at the figure here, yeah. So these are like steps where you can actually reduce the waste. Okay. Of course, at the last one is waste disposal. This is going to the landfill or incineration. And incineration means you burn it up, okay, so that eventually it is concentrated into ash, and then you send that ash to the landfill. But it's at least it's better than just landfill because the volume is smaller, right? So you don't really require a larger area of landfill. However, incineration also has its impacts, environmental impacts, because remember, when you're burning something, what is also generated? Yeah, carbon. You see when you burn something, there's that smoke coming out, right? So that is carbon. And we are now very, very conscious about carbon footprint. And we know that carbon dioxide leads to greenhouse, it's one of the greenhouse gases, and it leads to global warming. And this is something that we as a global community must reduce. Okay, we must do this because global warming is very, very detrimental, yeah, to the earth. Okay, and also to our way of life. Okay, so incineration, although it's a good alternative, there are other ways. There are not only incineration, there's something called WTE, waste to energy. Yeah, in waste to energy, use incineration. However, the heat from that burning is used to generate electricity. Okay, so essentially you, rather than only depending on power plants and the national grid, you can actually produce electricity from the waste that is being generated by the population. So it is an option. We still use incineration, but there are ways where you can mitigate. Yeah, mitigation here means you can properly capture, you can treat the carbon dioxide rather than releasing it directly to the environment. Okay. So before we go to the disposal, there are so many different things that you can do. So these are some of the approaches, okay, in the industry. So they make practices more efficient. So maybe they change some of the processes, yeah, make it more efficient, make it produce less waste. Minimize packaging for products. Now, I don't know if you guys know. Well, I myself haven't realized this, yeah. But if you guys know, Milo, yeah, Milo. So when, like ages ago, if you buy a kotak, alamak, Milo kotak, a carton of Milo drink, okay, and you compare it to nowadays, yeah, now the box is so much smaller. Yeah. However, the volume is similar. Okay, this is something that a lot of industries are doing. They try to optimize the amount of packaging. So no longer very baggy packaging. They try to make it as tight as possible. Okay, but still having the same amount of products. That is something that also being done. Purchase green consumer products. Yeah. So green here is an option. Usually, sometimes it's much more expensive, but it makes it is more environmental friendly. Okay. So reusing items, recycling items, and then with food waste, for example, you can actually do composting. Yeah. So rather than sending everything off to the garbage bin, you actually reduce your waste by using that to make a compost. That's also possible. Municipal composting, this is also being done. Yeah. And then, so these are not all options, and these are only some of it. There's so many other things that you can do actually to reduce waste. Yeah. And eventually, as you reach towards the end, you will be able to get more concentrated, less amount of waste to be disposed of. So that is what we are trying to do when we talk about waste management. Okay, and then, of course, with waste management, it's something that is very, very important. You guys know already. Eh? There's so many impacts related to it. So I will just go very briefly here. Like for example, okay, bearing in mind the previous example, okay, when you do the waste management, okay, the negative impacts of waste are eliminated. Okay, remember previously when I talk about agricultural waste being disposed of as is, okay, and it creates methane, and methane is a much worse greenhouse gas. Okay, if you manage that waste, you can actually reduce the negative impacts. Yeah? And then pollution and climate change emissions are reduced, definitely. Okay, not only in terms of air emission, as things decompose, yeah, and as things are, for example, in insecticides, in agricultural land, when the rain falls, the pesticide goes into the water bodies and then affecting the ecosystem. So that is the direct impact towards the environment. Okay, people's socioeconomic conditions are improved. So who wants to live in a place where it's very, very messy? Who wants to live here, for example? We, as humans, we crave that aesthetics. We like beautiful things. Yeah. So the socioeconomic conditions will be improved as you do a more efficient waste management. Okay, so these are very high level impacts. So if you look further down onto specific activities, then you will be able to generate a more itemized impacts. So very similar, very simple example, and then you can list down what are the specific impacts. Okay, and in terms of the outcomes, yeah, when you do waste management, yeah, first is resource recovery. Resource recovery is increased bringing waste back into value chain. So this is actually talking about circular economy. Circular economy. So you know that natural resources are non-renewable, okay, in a way, because once you use up something, it's gone forever. Yeah? And that is why resource recovery is very, very important, because we want to make sure that what we have is enough for the future generations. Okay, so if you are able to recover more and more resource through efforts in waste minimization, that would make it easier, okay, for waste to being used. Okay, and then you have less waste and so on and so forth. So I keep on repeating this because these are very important, guys. Yeah, sometimes people don't really see the need to do recycling and stuff. Why would you buy something that is secondhand, for example? But actually, it has its impacts. Okay. Another outcome: safe livelihood opportunities from waste management are identified and supported. Okay, so these are also related to the socio-economic. Okay, one is our way of life. Secondly, if we do waste management, actually, you can create jobs. You can create jobs. So a lot more people, okay, is able to fend for themselves because they have jobs, for example. So in places where the economy is not good, okay, this is where we see people started going into waste recycling activities, so on and so forth, because the livelihood matters. We want everyone to have the same access to wealth, to energy, to water. All of these are basic human rights. Okay? And then knowledge, attitudes, and practice on waste management and recycling are improved. So these are some of the outcomes, the direct outcomes when we do waste management. Now, of course, I'm telling this in terms of a very general outlook, yeah, but I hope you get the idea. Okay, as you go along very specific industries or very specific types of waste, you will be able to start thinking about what are the environmental and public health impacts. Okay, and this actually leads me to your second group assignment. Okay, so for your group assignment, okay, you will you already have your groups. Okay, so sorry about that, group 10 pula. So this one is not there. Okay, so each group will have different types of waste that you will study, or you will discuss, and you will put together in the form of two things. First is a report. So I say it like this because we're going to see in the next slide. And another half is the group presentation. Okay, so have a look at this title, because this is what you guys will work on. Right, I will share this in the WhatsApp group as well. Right, so when I said report just now, okay, you actually just need to create an infographic poster. Okay, so infographic, one page only. Yeah, you can use whatever you like, PowerPoint, Canva, so many different options out there. The size, please make sure that you use a proper size. Yeah, because sometimes with infographic, I've seen people do a very, very long one, you know. You can't read it in one page. You have to scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. So that is not the best way. Yeah? What you should do is try to make it, if you have your desktop, the general rule is you can actually read everything on the screen at a glance. You don't need to scroll down or left or right. Yeah, make sure you have it all in one slide, in one glance. Okay, the guide, so you can use 5 W's and 1 H: who, what, when, where, why, how. Ask yourself those questions and structure, arrange it accordingly. All right. The due date is 1st of July, so you actually have around 1 month to do this. Okay. And for the group presentation, you are still looking at the similar topic. Okay. However, in terms of the presentation itself, 10 minutes maximum for each group. You have to record it and you have to upload it through YouTube. Yeah, and you just need to submit the link. All right, and then you must include in the group presentation the types of waste. Okay, because you know, in the previous slide, you have your specific topic. Okay, so you have to describe that waste. Okay, and how it is currently being managed. Okay, and then the most important thing, the impacts. The impacts. Remember, today's topic is about impacts. Okay, so list down, try to explain, to describe the waste, the impacts of your waste towards public health and the environment. Okay, and then also discuss the challenges and limitations of managing the waste. Okay, the due date is similar. So both of these are due on the 1st of July. I will inform you guys how you will be able to submit. Right? Is either through Putra Plus or through Google Classroom. Yeah, but I'll let you know later on. Okay, and 5W1H that was mentioned before. So these are some of the questions that you can use to help guide you. For example, what is the waste? What is the treatment method? How and when it is produced? So on and so forth. Okay, so these are questions you can ask yourself to find out the answers that you eventually put into your infographic and also your presentation. Okay, so these are the rubric for the infographic. Have a look here on the themes. Okay, themes is very, very important. Make sure that it is your infographic is structured nicely. And you are telling a story right now. Okay, put yourself in the position of your reader or your audience. Okay, would you be interested to look at your infographic? That's how you have to ask yourself. Okay, and then logic. Okay, logic, and also the accuracy of the information displayed. Okay, graphs, charts, and figures. Okay, this is very, very important, especially in infographics. Yeah, to make sure that you have enough support. Now, you cannot just use words to convince people. In infographics, you need the supporting things and graphs, charts, and figures. Okay? And lastly is on the design itself. Okay, design in overall. Okay, it all works together. The styling, the title, the fonts, etc. All of this works together to give you one coherent infographic. Okay. And then this is the rubric for presentation. Okay, you will be judged on presentation, graphic, and design. Okay, the language and presentation manner, okay, and also your ability to provide logic or scientific answers. So you have the questions before. So the answers is what you presented during the presentation. Okay, so these are the rubric, and that's it for me. Any questions, you can reach me through email, through WhatsApp, or you can ask in the WhatsApp group. Yeah, and all the best. I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye-bye.